I am in Corydon, Indiana at the Battle of Corydon Park. This is the site of the only, I guess, significant battle of the Civil War here in Indiana. And this was during Morgan's raid in 1863. So we're gonna go check this out and also see some stuff here in Corydon, very historic town. So let's go check this place out. To the old state historical marker, the site, the Battle of Corydon, July 9th. 1863. Looks like this is one of the older markers from 1930. General John Morgan marched north along this road on Thursday, July 9th, 1863. So right along here. You can see they have an American flag and the old Confederate flag. It is on the National Register of Historic Places. Morgan's men ferried from Kentucky to Indiana on the Ohio River on July 8th of 1863, and they sunk the two ferry boats after they did it, and this is the mooring post and anchor chain. So General John Hunt Morgan was born to a pretty wealthy family in Lexington, Kentucky, and he was a bit of a different type of general. He liked to raid things. He liked to, cut off supplies economically, I guess, which is, of course, a very, very intelligent strategy. But in June and July of 1863, he started planning a raid through the North to try and distract troops from Tennessee, all the fighting going on there. Of course, a raid in the North would also damage morale, and he could hurt some of the towns and the economy of the region. I showed you the anchor post from the ship, so they came here the day before the battle here. Now there were no Union armies or regiments here. It was basically the men here who had to try and fight off Morgan's raiders, so that's either people who are too young or too old to join the Union Army at this point, so they're already at that disadvantage. So that means they were able to get about 450 men for the Harrison County Home Guard to fight off the Confederate Army of 2,400. So I don't know what they were thinking. I mean, they were brave. And this is where they took their stand. They had barricaded the day before all the areas around Corydon. Now, Corydon has a symbolic significance as the former state capital, and also they simply don't want their town raided. So around noon on July 9th, Morgan's men started coming here, and already, they're severely outnumbered. Morgan's men was able to not completely surround them, but they got into what's called a pincer formation. So basically they're squeezed in on both flanks, just with the manpower. The home guard, they really couldn't do much, and then they had to retreat back into town, and then they started shelling the city until they raised the white flag over the county courthouse, which was then the former state capital of the state of Indiana. So the only Civil War battle in Indiana ended up with a white flag over the former state capital. It's not a good record, Indiana. So once they got into the city, they did what they did. They stole some stuff, ate all the food that the civilians had prepared for the home guard, and then they stole a bunch of money from the county treasurer and some merchants, and went on their way east. Also, Governor Oliver Morton, he was pissed off that they got the former state capital. I mean, I keep bringing that up, but that's kind of embarrassing. But this is where the resistance to General Morgan took place, right on these grounds. Alright, here they have a 6-pounder cannon. Morgan's men had a few of these, and these were fairly successful in helping to hold off some of Morgan's men on one of the flanks for a while. This is the plaque about the battle. And here's a memorial to the Confederate dead. And on this side is the memorial to the Harrison County men who were killed here. So in all, 4 of the guards were killed, with several wounded, and 11 of the raiders were killed, and 40 wounded. Now most of the defenders were captured, like 355 of them, and I think they were paraded through the town when they came in. So yeah, big oof. So they would have built barricades and stuff all around here, And when the Confederates first started coming in, they were able to repel the first few attacks. Now, I've been here once before. I went in this building. This was a long time ago. I don't know if they have exhibits in there or not. But yeah, there's a log cabin. So after Corydon, they just kept moving. I think their route was over 1,000 miles. But it all came to an end on July 26th of 1863 in Buffington Island, Ohio. That's where General Ambrose Burnside's men eventually caught up to them. They kind of trapped them, and they were able to break it up. Morgan did escape that battle of Buffington Island. Also, I was just recently there, and I have a video at that battlefield, so make sure to check that video out. But he was captured a few days later, but basically a few months after that, he escaped the prison, came back down south. Now, the raid strategically did not provide any advantage. It was kind of just a waste overall, because, you know, they all got captured in the end, so there was really no point to it. So he lost a lot of respect among the Confederate generals because they thought he was just an idiot who just did his own thing. It was not authorized. But basically, when he got back to Tennessee, he got put in some minor roles, and then in Greenville, Tennessee, he got shot and killed in 1864. So yeah, it's the story of General Morgan and the raid in Indiana. So this was a neat stop. Now let's head into Corydon. At the Visitor Center, there's this really neat limestone monument to the history of Corydon. You can see the Capitol building, the log cabin, to pioneers, pastoral elegy. There's a marker about John Shields, who was a member of the Lewis and Clark expedition. He was one of the 9 young men from Kentucky, and after the expedition, he settled here in southern Indiana and died in this county. So this is called the Liar's Bench. It says the original was located under a shade tree from 1929 to 1986, and it was a popular place for people to congregate and tell stories. But it was universally understood what was said here stayed here. There's the old Presbyterian church. Here's their historic Masonic Lodge building. So this Masonic marker tells that in the home of Robert W. Nelson, 11 Master Masons representing 9 lodges assembled in 1817 and called a meeting at Madison at the Schofield House, which I've been to organize the Grand Lodge of Indiana, officially establishing the Freemasons in the state. Now the big thing here in Corydon is the Corydon Capitol State Historic Site. This building here is the first capital of the state of Indiana. I have a separate video where I went here and the governor's headquarters and all that, so make sure to check that video out. Here's a marker about the stately beginnings that happened right around here. In the same block as the old state capitol is the current Harrison County Courthouse building, a little bit bigger and grander. This building was built in 1927. This is a World War I trench mortar. Wow. There's a monument in honor of the men from Harrison County who were killed at the Battle of Tippecanoe and the War of 1812. There's Spencer's Rifles Company, the Yellow Jackets. There's a German howitzer from World War I. So this World War I monument could be subject of controversy because it says "For God and Country." Supreme Court case recently went through about World War I monuments and the separation of church and state because so many of them include God or specifically Christianity. At the courthouse there's a marker about the Battle of Corydon. Looks like to start off as the World War II memorial, and then they added Korea and Vietnam later on. Interesting, I've never seen a peace monument at a courthouse dedicated to the peaceful resolution of conflict. And wow, that's a part of Eisenhower's farewell address. That's a good monument to have. And right here is a memorial to Governor Frank O'Bannon. He was governor from 1997 until his death in office in 2003. Looks like someone left O'Bannon some bubbles. And Governor O'Bannon's monument is in the shadow of the first capital of the state. There's a gazebo and an old bell. Right there is the Harrison County Discovery Center. From my understanding, notice they don't use museum. So from my research, it's like a children's museum, so I'm gonna skip that. Looks like there's the old Corydon State Bank facade. It's now the town hall. I believe this log house was the home of Christopher Harrison, Jonathan Jennings' lieutenant governor, who he got into conflict with. He later claimed to be the legitimate acting governor of Indiana, and then he resigned when he was not voted in favor of. It's a really old law office building, and the public library looks very nice. Look at that old ironworks sign. I guess they have a Texas clothing shop here. That's always important. This is the United Methodist Church. It's on the site of the first Methodist church here in Corydon. Apparently the lot was purchased from Isaiah Boone, the son of Squire Boone. Yep, butt drugs with 2 T's. This is a real place, so let's head inside. This drugstore isn't named for its comedic effect, however they do use it to their advantage. Butt is a family name. The pharmacy was established in 1952 by William Butt and is now owned by the 3rd generation of Butts who still run the place. In the past 20 years they've added a soda fountain and a gift shop. The place does have a really cool atmosphere. It does seem like an old school soda fountain. They do have plenty of opportunities for butt drug merch. Just maybe don't carry around illegal butt drugs with them. Now you can get some happy balls at Butt Drugs. Alright, so I was rushing into town. I've been visiting stuff all day, and I was trying to get this this place because it was about to close in like 10 minutes or something. But I passed the battlefield. This film being filmed before I actually went there, so I figured out, okay, I'm gonna go there later. But I kind of swerved off the road at a turn, and the car that was there, coincidentally, with my luck, was a cop. So I just got pulled over for the first time, and I am freaking the F out, and he didn't give me a ticket. I was like, I'm with my grandma, so like it was cool. He's like, okay, this guy's just a nerd, not drunk drivers. So yeah, the Corydon battlefield caused me to get pulled over for the first time. Luckily the cop was cool and didn't give me a ticket. There's nothing on my record, so I'm still good. Yeah, I'm freaking out. There's an old car wash and railroad car. Out here on the railroad track, I found a turtle. Almost ran over him. I think he's pissed off. I'm gonna leave him alone now. This is the Leora Brown School. It is the oldest standing African-American schoolhouse in the state of Indiana. So here's the historical marker. It was an elementary and secondary school for African Americans known as the Corydon Colored School. And the first graduation was in 1897. And I think it's an educational and cultural center now. Obviously it's not open, but that's pretty neat. Looks like it's very nicely restored as well. And they did put the African American school right by the cemeteries and nearby St. Joseph Cemetery. And this is historic Cedar Hill Cemetery. So this one is so historic it has its own historical marker. First burials dating back to 1808. See, there's a bunch of really old grave markers. Here's a veteran. It's not a US issued marker, so I'm not sure what war. Can't really read it. I think it says 1883. See Colonel on there. See the flag. Obviously a veteran of some kind, probably Civil War. You can see the old family plot boundaries and the stone. This one has a wrought iron fence around it, so I assume whoever is here is pretty important. Some very old gravestones here. I'm gonna assume a lot of these people in this area were alive when Corydon was the state capital. There's a Civil War grave. And here is the grave of Governor Frank Louis O'Bannon. He's got a really nice grave marker. Of course, he died in office September 13th, 2003 of a stroke in Chicago. Looks like a recently polished seal of Indiana. He was governor when I was born, and from what I know, I guess the state was economically very well off under him, and also he was behind Amber Alerts. On the back there's a quote by George Bernard Shaw. "Life is no brief candle for me, it is a sort of splendid torch which I got hold of for a moment, and I want to make it burn as brightly as I can before turning it over to future generations." He said that in his 1997 inaugural address. Ever seen a bird bath gravestone before? That's pretty neat.